It is BTH, Beyond the Headlines, right here on Prime Morning. Yours truly, Benjamin Akakpo. Thank you for staying. Now, this morning we're going to be talking, well, it's the talk of the nation. C.K. Akonnor has been dismissed, he together with his assistants. A committee has been set up, three-member committee, vice president of the GFA. We have one of the regional chairpersons together with Dr. Randy Abbey, forming that three-member group who are tasked within 72 hours to get replacements. That is the management of the team, from the head coach to the assistants. We have just one out of the two matches, qualifying matches for the World Cup that we've played against Ethiopia and, of course, South Africa. But things have not gone exactly according to plan. 4 wins, 2 draws, 4 losses for C.K. Akonnor. Where do we go from here now that he's been sacked? That's the major question we're going to be discussing. We have joining us via Zoom Nathaniel Attoh, a big man. He's with our sports crew right here in the multimedia group. He joins the conversation. Good morning, Nathaniel.
Hey, good morning and good to see you guys. Good to see you.
Great. We also have joining the conversation Kwame Dwommoh-Agyemang, a major figure when it comes to sports-related matters in this country, a broadcaster as well. Kwame, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Ben. Thanks for having me. Benjamin, you need to also add that Kwame is an alumnus of JoySports. It's very important.
Oh, yeah. In fact, I didn't want to go that way because he's an alumnus of other places as well. But Kwame, it's been a while since we had a tete-a-tete like this, an interaction. I've been hearing you speak on behalf of your club a few times. It is really refreshing to catch up with you again.
Thank me again, Ben.
Great. All right, so let's dig into the discussion. Nathaniel, I'll start from your end. Just about a year of Charles Akonnor. Did you see this coming, I should say? Did you see this coming from the initial exploits against Qatar and other countries? Did you see this coming?
Well, if what we saw in the last, 48 to 72 hours is anything to go by, then definitely, yes, I saw it coming. And of course, we picked a bit of intel as well within the corridors of the FA. And, it was just staring us in the face because we're within a very crucial period of wanting to qualify for a competition that we couldn't make it to at the last count. And I'm talking about Russia, 2018, for a country that had qualified consistently between 2006, 2010, and 2014. The expectation was that we were going to make it in 2018, but it did not happen. And let's also remember that, in Brazil, we had issues. And the expectation was that then if we got back on that stage, we would improve on our performance and put up a better show. C.K. Akonnor's story is one of a very complicated case because I always say that there is a very bad psychology around the Ghanaian or the homegrown coach and the Black Stars coaching job. We could go into several aspects of the conversation, but what is important now is that we put these little questions or these few questions to the thoughts of our listeners and our viewers and football fans at large. I mean, every other time when a Ghanaian, or a homegrown coach takes up this position, then we get issues of salary arrears. Of course, it's not to say that with the foreigners we haven't had a few issues here and there, but it is like it's a written rule that every other time when a Ghanaian coach is in charge, that has to happen. Issues of contracts, issues of the package itself, okay? And then issues of the general regard that we have for our own and our own homegrown coaches. So those are the conversations we need to have, because I throw my mind around and I take a look at the legends of blessed memory. I'm talking about Coach Sam Addo. I'm talking about Sir Cecil Jones Attoh. I'm talking about, the likes of Herbert Addo and the like. And you take a look at the kind of personalities they brought onto the job, the kind of depth of knowledge they brought onto the job, and the general support that was existent then. This is not to say that there were no problems back in the time. There were problems, but then there was one underlying factor, and that underlying factor was that they were given the chance, or they were given the muscle or the arm to take decisions. And this was what we missed in Coach C.K. Akonnor's case. If you give a coach a position, make sure that you also empower them to take decisions. We did not see this in C.K. Akonnor's case, and that is one of many factors that has brought us here to this stage.
Now, what do you say that we're facing a sort of crisis? Yes, for a while there was that call that, look, let's employ local coaches. They are here with us. They feel the heartbeat of the people. They resonate with us. Let's appoint them to do the job on behalf of Mother Ghana. And we can trust them because at least you would want them to have, or you would believe they would have that patriotic spirit. But I want us to do a little juxtaposition. We had Kwesi Appiah. He had his own record. I mean, the initial Kwesi Appiah parts 1 and 2. The initial time, about 12 wins, 10 losses, 5 draws, and all of that. Then we sent him packing. He comes for a second stint and up to January 2020. Then he was sacked, and then we went looking for another coach. We brought in CK and all of that. Are we being fair to our local coaches? You've spoken about the monetary end, Nathaniel, but are we being fair? Are we giving them enough time to operate, to become the sort of managers we want them to?
All right. I'm glad you've asked this question. And that also brings me to another aspect of the conversation, the very broad conversation that we need to have going forward. I mentioned Cecil Jones, Atukwefiu. I mentioned Coach Addo. Let's just zero in on these two coaches. When you go into their CVs, you'd realize that they have had adequate coaching courses in different parts of the world. I'm talking about the likes of Germany, the likes of Brazil. These are established countries when it comes to the football development structure. Now, the question you need to ask yourself, Benjamin, is what is the plan for coaching of our national teams when it comes to the FA? Where is the blueprint, and where are we regarding implementation of that blueprint? I've always suggested, for instance, that why don't we, for instance, say that we're picking 4 to 6 coaches within a certain demographic variable, youthful coaches who have a lot of time ahead of them, so that we take them through a certain specified regimen that will be monitored heavily by the FA, and based on which they will be given opportunities to coach our teams from the junior level. Let us not forget, Benjamin, and Kwame will also bear me witness on this, and it's a known record, that all of our successes as a nation when it comes to football have been achieved by homegrown coaches, 98%. The only coach that goes in history to not be of Ghanaian skin and to have won major silverware with Ghana is Otto Pfister. So go through the list. Coach Selas Tete, who won us the very first Under-20 FIFA World Cup, the first for Ghana and the first for Africa, and a bronze in addition some years later, is Ghanaian. Let's take a look at the Africa Cup of Nations that we're still struggling to win after 40 years. And you take a look at the record. It's C.K. Gyamfi and Osam Dodu. Between the two of them, C.K. Gyamfi had 3, Osam Dodu had 1. So, back in 1995 as well, when Ghana won the Under-17 FIFA World Cup for the second time, it was Coach Sam Ade. Earlier, Coach Sam Ade had won the bronze medal, the only football medal that Ghana has at the Olympic Games stage. So it just goes to tell you that there is a certain merit that the argument for the Ghanaian coach will always have. So I would want to, without any, from a non-political point of view, want to salute the president of the land for taking that decision. However, once that political decision is taken and that will is there, we need to sit back, craft the process very, very well, and then we can move on. If we just sit back and say, we want to take sentimental decisions and just appoint Ghanaian coaches, then it's not the way to go. That is not what we're talking about. We're talking about getting Ghanaian coaches who have been through the mill, whose capacity has been built over a certain period of time, who have been given opportunities to grow within space, and then we could give them that big stage to deliver. So for me, it's not just about taking the decision just on sentimental basis, but we need to take the decision such that it is a qualitative one and not just quantitative and just having the tag Ghanaian, he's one of our own. No, that's not the way to go.
Let me come to you, Kwame, and I'll throw 2 at you at a go. First of all, any surprises in the fact that we've said goodbye to C.K. Akonnor? And secondly, I want you to put, again, the 2 local coaches we've had side by side. Kwesi Appiah, chapter 1, where he won 44%. He had a winning rate of 44%. Now, if you take C.K. Akonnor's winning rates, that is 4 wins, 4 losses, 2 draws, that would be a 40% statistic. You get it? So 44%, 40%. Are our local coaches up to scratch? First of all, just start about whether you were surprised, and then we get into that one.
Well, I'm not too sure if there were any surprises with the announcement yesterday. Based on, just like Nat said, we are in the industry, we are friends who work at a very high level. So we had a fair idea the kind of things that they were thinking. We had a fair idea the kind of things that they wanted to do even before the meeting that we were told was held yesterday. And that decision that came out, I think somewhere after 5 yesterday, I'm not too sure was that surprising. A lot of people had seen the last 2 games that we had played. Even before that, there had been talk a couple of weeks, a couple of months ago that it didn't appear that the FA were okay or were happy with the performance of the national team under C.K. Akonnor. And at some point, maybe they were going to pull the plug. It was only a case of when. And in the last 2 matches that we had played against Ethiopia and against South Africa, there are a lot of people who say that generally the performance was not good enough. There were people I recall after the game against Ethiopia who said, okay, if we play poorly and we get a result, who cares? After all, it's the 3 points that we want. And then when we play South Africa and we played up poorly again, there were people again who said, look, yes, we managed to get past Ethiopia, we played poorly. We played so poorly against South Africa, they're not too sure how poorly we're going to be playing against Zimbabwe in the next 2 matches, and ultimately determine whether we're in a position to qualify for the World Cup or otherwise. There are those who also say that, look, just like any other job, if you come in and you're not performing, there's every chance that you'll be fired. And when it comes to the coaching job, it's a lot easier all over the world. I mean, your KPIs are purely based on performance and not sentiments, like Nat said. If you come in and you fail to deliver, fail in quotes, then unfortunately you have to go. But for me, this is my thing, and I'll raise probably about 2 or 3 things in line with that. On an MGL platform, this is plus or minus maybe 3, 4, 5 months ago, I can't really recall the time, where in the words of the president of the Ghana Football Association, he made it clear that gone are the days where a coach or an individual will decide who comes to play for the senior national team. He had that interview with Gary L. Smith. I listened to that interview very well. Now, this was my take from that particular interview. If you say, or if you tell the whole world that the coach is not going to be directly responsible for call-ups, what that simply means is that he's going to be doing this with the team. The team members I never saw till today. What I'm asking myself is very simple. If he was not the only one who was directly responsible for the call-ups that we're going to be playing for the national team, how then do we blame only CK for the performance and the members of the Black Stars Management Committee are still there? That's the first one. Secondly, if you look at the KPIs of this technical director that we've brought from wherever, his last 12 years, he was working in Azerbaijan. Okay, we brought him here to help support and develop our game. Yesterday, when the announcement was made, 3 administrators were directly responsible for getting us a new coach. The technical director is not part. What does that tell you? And just like Nat said, you need to work with a plan. All over the world at a very high level, they work with a plan. If you ask me, it does not appear to me that we are working with a plan. And when you say that in 72 hours, you're going to get a manager, then come on. Where are you going to get a manager in 72 hours? A manager of a certain level in 72 hours with all the paperwork that has to be done.
But Kwame, this would have to be I don't know, but this would have to be a stopgap measure, right? Maybe an interim manager before a substantive one is put in place.
The statements that was released yesterday didn't mention anything about stopgap. And even if it's a stopgap, that means that it is someone that he wants. So we are looking at someone who would come in and get the job done. For me, that's the most important thing. Right. And then secondly, you mentioned the issue about whether the local coaches who have been given the job in the last, if you like, Chrissy got the job. He was assistant for a while. He was assistant from somewhere like 2010 to 2013, thereabouts. And then he got the job, qualified us for Brazil and all of that. So if you look at the records, it's not like he was that poor. But it was very clear when the new administration came in that, again, they didn't appear to be too impressed with the performance of Kwesi Appiah and wanted him to go. Not to mention the fact that if you have a look at our history, apart from the U17 in Italy in 91, virtually everything that we have won is by a local coach. I'm not saying the local coaches are far better, but of course the dispensation was different. In the days when we won the African Cup of Nations up to 1982, how many of our players applied their trade abroad anyway? Everybody was here. Almost everyone was here. So we got everyone, we got long camps and all of that. Today you can't have that. Today, the players are all over. So this talk of getting in coaches of a certain level has been propounded for years. So we've gone in for a lot of these so-called top-notch professionals. None of them have really been able to give us anything. I don't really care whether the coach is local or foreign. What I care about is when the coach comes in, he's competent enough to get the job done. We've tried a number of coaches, whether local or foreign. It's not really worked. I just hope that whoever they are looking to bring, if they've already started a conversation with someone, that person would be good enough to get the job done.
Okay, so simple point there. Let me activate the phone lines now. You can actually call and share your thoughts. 0302 211 693 extension 4. 0302 211 693 extension 4. It will be on your screens as well. We are all passionate about our football. Do share with us. What do you think about the sacking of C.K. Akonnor? And what do you think about our prospects? Do you feel we're going to be able to make it? We're going to be able to qualify for the World Cup, the Mundial? Let me now come back to Nathaniel. Now, what do you think the sacking of C.K. Akonnor is going to produce by way of consequences at this time? Mid group, what do you think the consequences are going to be? But before you come in, Nathaniel, I believe we have a caller on the line. Hello, good morning. We've lost the caller. Nathaniel, so I'll put that question to you. What do you think about this mid-play sacking of C.K. Akonnor? What do you think the impact is going to be? Well, it appears we're having some technical challenges. We'll resolve that shortly. I'll throw that to you, Kwame. What do you think about the sacking of C.K. Akonnor at this point in time? What do you think the effect is going to be?
Well, normally what happens all over the world that we all get to see is that when a new coach comes in, there's like a reaction from every player. That's what you generally see, because the new coach is not familiar with everyone yet. So when a new coach comes on board, the first call-ups or the first players he's going to be using in his first official game, everybody would want to impress. Yeah. So there is a reaction because everybody wants to maintain his position in the team, because they know that at the national team level, the manager will probably be looking around and around and around. So if you get that first call-up under the new manager, you'd want to impress and retain your position. I'm sure that's probably what the FA is looking for as well. Get that reaction from the players in those games against, incidentally, the next game is against Zimbabwe here in Ghana, and then we go back to Zimbabwe again. That's what they want. Hopefully we would get that reaction with the new manager. That would help in getting us results before we get to play Ethiopia and South Africa on match day 5 and match day 6.
Nathaniel, do we have you back? Can you hear me, Nathaniel? Okay, so we're still not, we don't have Nathaniel yet. But again, Kwame, now, since we've situated the entire conversation, I want us to look at the decision that has been taken. And you've already expressed your thoughts that getting a qualified coach, not maybe qualified, but a coach that can get us the results within 72 hours is going to be tricky. We have the 3-member committee that has been set up, Dr. Randy Abbey. We have, I think, the Upper West chairman of the GFA. And then we have the executive member, the vice president. Looking at the dynamics, you have your doubts about getting a quality coach, but don't you feel that they could have established some conversations already ahead of the sacking of C.K. Akonnor? And we have certain names that have come up, the likes of Hervé Renard, Addo, who plies his trade in Germany as an assistant coach. Some have said it's not likely he will come. What do you think about all these dynamics? Couldn't we get a super coach out of this mix within 72 hours?
Well, I will be very surprised if the FA had not already started talking to someone. Right. That's why they are confident enough to give a timeline, because all over the world, what I see is that when a manager is fired, the club or the national team would say within the shortest possible time or in a not too distant future. But once they put a timeline to it, as in 72 hours, I will really be surprised if before yesterday they had not started talking to someone. I would really be surprised. And then secondly, the names that have been mentioned, let me start with Hervé Renard. Hervé Renard has a very, very high-paying job with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We can't match what the Saudis are giving him. We should forget about that. And the Saudis are in a very, very good position to qualify for the World Cup as well. I don't think he's going to sacrifice all of that to come and coach us. Maybe later, maybe after these qualifiers or maybe after the World Cup in Qatar. That's when he'll probably be thinking of taking the job. And then Addo has also been mentioned. Would you honestly want to leave a job as an assistant manager of Borussia Dortmund and come and work with a football association who will tell you that you have to work with a team to ensure which players you call and which players you do not call, that you cannot be your own man? Someone who is coming from that kind of environment would never accept to work under those conditions. Let's not forget, he wasn't born and bred here. He only came to play football for us. He comes from a different, which is completely different, a system which is completely different, right. And he would want to be his own man. If he's not going to be his own man, I'm not sure he would take the job. Okay, I'll come back to you on that very point, but let's bring in Samuel, who's on the line. Sam, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
What are your quick thoughts on this matter?
I think it's good they sack the coach, but we need a good coach who qualify us to the World Cup. We don't like anybody who come and fail us. So they should find a good coach for Ghana. Sam,
would you prefer a local coach? Do you have any suggestions?
No, but we need a foreign coach.
We need a foreign coach.
Who is far better than those who have come in. Please.
All right. Sam, thanks for sharing your thoughts. Let's move on to Francis. Francis, good morning.
Good morning.
Please speak up for me, Francis. What do you think about this, the sacking of C.K. Akonnor? And, it appears we've lost Francis. Are you still with us, Francis? We've lost Francis. So, Kwame, you were making that point, especially about Addo and how the difference exists in terms of the style of play at Borussia Dortmund, where his expertise has lain over the last how many years, and his core practice juxtaposed with what we are doing here. But there's always room for new experiences. I mean, some of the foreign coaches that we can talk about, from Otto to all of those, they started right here on this terrain with the major job, and they delivered. Otto, for example, he delivered. He came here, he was able to do something. He won laurels for Ghana. Shouldn't we be looking at that and giving them a chance, assuming they would even be interested?
The example of Otto reminds me very well of something. In those days, what happened was that at the state level, we had certain relationships with certain governments. So Otto is a product of those kind of relationships. It wasn't like he was headhunted or anything like that. He came in to help develop our players at the junior level. And some way, somehow, before we knew it, Coach Afrani had been sacrificed for him to take over the U17 job. And some way, somehow, before we realized, he was also giving additional responsibilities of the national team. So after 1992, he left. I recall the case of Carlos Alberto Pereira, the former Brazilian coach, many years ago. He also came here on a developmental program like that. Today, the coaches do not come for developmental programs. Today, the coaches are coming in for the money. They have to be convinced to sacrifice whatever thing that they're doing to take this job. Like I said, Addo born, bred, lives in Germany. If he's going to be taking this job, because a national team job is not like a club job where he would have to always be here. But is he ready to, for example, move from Germany, come and be here 3-4 weeks, 2 weeks every month, that kind of thing, moving around, scouting players. You know, these guys have strong ties with their countries of birth, families, and things like that. That's where I am not too confident that
there's doubts there. Hold your horses, Kwame. Let me usher in Mike. Mike, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Your quick thoughts.
Yeah, for me, I prefer a foreign coach, which we can make up a good solution that if you go to the World Cup, we can achieve something better. Okay. Yeah, that is what, and we need a foreign coach that can do better than the previous coaches. Because we can't continue to be exchanging coaches like this. Yeah, Black Star is a standard team that we know previously, but now things are changing. It's taking too much time.
All right. Thank you, Mike, for your quick suggestions there. So far, we have two people who are both rooting for foreign coaches, but we've also had some foreign coaches who have come and failed to perform. So how do we balance the equation? Gifty, good morning. Good morning, Gifty. Hello, Gifty.
Okay. Yeah.
Good morning.
Hello.
Yes, Gifty, we can hear you. What is your thinking on this matter?
Okay. Good morning. I'm Beatrice, and I'm very happy they start. C.K. Akonnor, and I hope. Good morning.
Yes, please go ahead, Gifty.
I'm very happy they start C.K. Akonnor. C.K. Akonnor.
Okay.
And I hope the next coach that will come, and I hope the next coach that will come will live to our expectation and then send us to the World Cup. And I hope it's an expatriate coach. Don't like any local coach in Ghana.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Gifty, for contributing. That is 3 out of 3 for foreign coaches. I see a lot of you actually calling the WhatsApp line. Please rather call 0302 211 693 extension 4. That is on your screen right now. 0302 211 693 extension 4. A lot of you are rather calling the WhatsApp number, but I'll be taking your messages from WhatsApp. Franklin is also on the line. Hello, good morning, Franklin.
Yeah, good morning.
Yes, in about 20 seconds. Quick thoughts.
This morning.
Sure. Quick thoughts.
Yeah, my concern is not about sacking the coaches.
Right.
But my concern is who will take up the mountain and lift up to the expectation of Ghanaians. I prefer they take a foreign coach who can do the job better. But is it going to be any intimidation from somewhere else? That's my question. Who select the players for the coaches? For instance, as a foreign coach or a local coach, you need to sit down and do your selection very properly. But if it is like interference from any high office or anywhere, I think we will be found wanting all the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. I'll be taking some of your WhatsApp messages shortly. In fact, let me do so now right before I come back to Kwame. This one says, good morning. As Ghanaians, we should have known that because of politics now in the fabric of everything we do in the country, a Ghanaian coach can definitely not be able to do the job for us. This one says, hello, Joy Prime. Well, we're listening to you, and you can share your thoughts. But on the back of that, Kwame, I'd like to find out from you, looking at the structures that we have, we'll take more. Okay, so Kwame, hold your horses. Let me just take this caller. Solomon, thank you for joining the conversation.
Yeah, thank you too. I'm actually calling from Nkoko. I think that the whole Black Star team have to be taking a look at it. When you look at C.K. Akonnor, it's because the management, they dictate the pick, what player to be selected for C.K. Akonnor. That has led to his downfall because I believe that he can do best. But the management is imposing players upon him. How can he practice or get the good players on the field?
Right.
And they are putting our hearts on the ground. Just like that. Ghanaians are suffering because of this. Because our heart is in the Black Stars. And looking at the whole setup, we are even, Ghanaians are fed up with the management, everything. So I think that the next coach coming should put his feet down and stop dictating by these management and those stuff. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so Kwame, I'll come to you with 2 practical questions. I want you to hit the nail on the head. We heard from Charles Akonnor that he would work with a core group of about 40 players over time. Now, we've seen about 70 players that have passed through over the last, months that we've seen him at work. And that feeds into what one of the callers was talking about, that does the manager have a free hand even when we're using a local coach, which also goes to highlight the issue of structures as far as our football is concerned, from the GFA to whatever, the ministry, to even political power and the roles they play in there in terms of who gets to play. That is one question. And the second one then would be, moving forward, looking at our position in Group G, having won one match, lost one match, what are our real prospects, barring whichever coach we put in there, whether we're bringing a new coach or otherwise? What are our prospects of making it qualifying? So those two questions. But let's start with the structures at play and whether the managers even have a free hand to do what must be done.
Well, as far as I can remember, CK never came out publicly to say that his job was interfered with. So everything that has been said or everything that has been written, you probably say maybe they are alleged. But Ben, you've been around for a very long time and you know how these things work. When you hear these things practically every day, then you know that there's an iota of truth in it. Now, that's the first one. The bit with 70 players, even if he's going to be using 1 million players and would help us qualify to the World Cup, I honestly do not care. Every player who is good enough to play for the Black Stars or who is at a certain quality, for me, should always be given an opportunity when he's performing. The national team job is not like a club job where you're playing with, let's say, 30 registered players or 25 registered players and you cannot go beyond that. The national team job is such that nobody is going to put a ceiling on how many players you're going to call. So, for example, if at some point a player is suspended or injured or has lost form, because the coach says he wants to, let's say, work with a certain number of players, he can't look beyond that number. The only issue I have with those numbers is that there have been times, and this is why a lot of people complain about interference in the job of most of the time the local coaches. There have been times where players have been called up, never given a minute to play, and in the next call up they never showed up. And we are told that most of these decisions are taken in consonance with this group, with whoever they are, who are supposed to help us, selectors and the technical director. So I'm asking myself, what were the reasons or what were the considerations for their call-ups in the very first time and why they were not called up again? Recently, when we played against Ethiopia and South Africa, a player was called up for a game against South Africa. He's gone back to Germany to go on an interview and said he was shocked he was called up because for him, he had not done enough to merit a call-up. Then there's a player coming from Germany and we're told was recommended by the technical director of the Ghana Football Association. I don't know. I don't really know how all these players have ended up in the team, but for me, it raises a lot of questions as to whether some of these players even have been seen or heard of by the head coach himself. Now, to the second point as to whether we can qualify, for me, I'm not giving up. We are only 1 point, incidentally, only 1 point behind the South Africans. The South Africans are 4, we are 3, the Ethiopians are 3, and then the Zimbabweans have 1. Now, this, I think, is what's going to happen. In our next game, we're going to be playing Zimbabwe. If we get a result against them, we move to 6. What, for me, will be key will be the next 2 games after that game we play against Zimbabwe in Ghana. I don't know whether it's Accra, Kumasi, second year or whatever. Because after we play Zimbabwe, the next 2 matches are going to be on the road. Those games against Zimbabwe and Ethiopia in Addis would ultimately determine whether we qualify for the World Cup or not. Because
of course, if we have any other slip up, if we lose another match, it means we're practically about. If
we lose another match and the South Africans get a result, then it makes it very, very difficult. Dicey. Because at this point, it appears that it's either us or them.
Right.
That's my opinion. It appears it's going to be either us or them. So it's very important we get a result against Zimbabwe in the next game in Ghana.
Right.
And then I think, I've seen the Ethiopians, I've seen the South Africans, it's going to be very close in those games. But if we don't get at least 4 to 6 points out of those games against Zimbabwe, it makes our chances of qualifying a bit more difficult. But I'm not giving up. I'm still confident that we can just nick past that.
Kwame, it's always refreshing having you join us. Kwame Dwommoh-Agyemang is a sports journalist, and he's been discussing the whole bit about C.K. Akonnor's sacking and the way forward. Kwame, thank you so much. Do have a lovely day. Initially, we're also joined by Nathaniel, Attoh, who is with our sports crew here. This has been Beyond the Headlines. The conversation continues about what happens to our football. Stay tuned, though. We have more conversations coming your way right after this. Do stay.